Well, the first reason I came to Maui was for windsurfing. Morning, noon, and night, eat, sleep, breathe, windsurfing. And I'd go down early in the morning and go surf, longboard, shortboard, whatever it might be, until the wind came up. And then I'd windsurf all day, and if the wind died, I'd get back in on my surfboard and go surf some more. And what's funny is I really didn't have any aspirational goals. I just loved doing it, and the people that were doing it at the same time were young, and we just all shared all day, every day down at the beach, hanging out, having a good time, and windsurfing. And all the guys that I hung out with for windsurfing were all good surfers. And sort of at the tail end of our windsurf careers, because we were familiar with foot straps and because we all surfed, it sort of provided the opportunity to, when toe surfing came along, be a lot more familiar with the dynamics that we needed to incorporate in order to take it into really large surf. In the very beginning, taking it back to when we were just incorporating the foot straps, working out the technique of how to tow. We were going through really the pinnacle of our trial and error, not knowing what worked, what didn't work, how to do aerials, 8 feet above the wave, because none of us had ever done that before. And so we took a trip down to Baja, where we could kind of get away from anybody's view of all of our mistakes, and gave us an opportunity to really experiment without the pressure of anybody looking or judging us or anything like that. And so we could just be creative. We didn't have to worry about failing, which we did lots of. And like I said, it was trial and error. It was more error than anything else, but that's what allowed us to figure it out and ultimately be able to do the giant airs and design little teeny boards that ultimately were the key to riding really big surf. And so being familiar with the foot straps, knowing what a wave looked like and how to judge it long before it broke from how you ride a windsurf wave, half a mile out sometimes, just following it in and watching it shape up and knowing what it would do when it hit the reef, were all skills that we had developed through windsurfing that would pay dividends when we got to toe surfing. That same group of guys that we all pushed each other in windsurfing, we all migrated over to the toe surfing and incorporated the straps and figured out that we needed smaller boards and started riding bigger and bigger waves. And sort of like windsurfing, we all depended on each other, not just for performance and improvement, but literally got to a point where we were relying on each other to survive it at a certain point. And that basically led us to January 28th, 1998, Big Wednesday, essentially one of the biggest days ever ridden to that point. Toe surfing was growing, and every time we went out there was a few more skis. And so I wouldn't call it crowded yet, but it was getting there. And on that particular morning, we pulled up, and there was no crowd. We had the place all to ourselves because it was such a different level. The intensity, the speed, the sound, the size of the open ocean swells. I'd never seen anything like that. I just never seen waves that tall in the open ocean, deep water. I never questioned whether I would ride that day or not. It just almost goes without saying, without even thinking. At that point, we were all committed to riding whatever came. Like there wasn't a ceiling, I don't think, where anybody would have gone, no, I'm going to tap out. This is too much. It was like whatever was there, we were going to ride it. And so while it was scary, and there was a different sense of responsibility not only to yourself but to your teammates, because we all looked after each other so carefully and so committedly that it really felt like we were kind of on the dark side of the moon, and we didn't know if our planes would explode when we crossed the sound barrier. It was completely new, and at that point nobody had ridden waves like that, and the equipment that we used had never been used in waves like that. So yeah, it was intimidating, it was exhilarating, and at the end of the day, when everyone was still alive, it was perhaps one of the most memorable surfing days I've ever had. You know, having been a professional athlete for as long as I have, um, what you really enjoy is learning. Learning is fun. Trying to get better is fun. Improving makes you feel good, right? Yeah, so my latest passion is foil boarding again. And by again, I mean we did a version of it back in the 90s, where we towed in. This feels so fresh and so much more accessible, because Alex Aguera at GoFoil completely reconfigured how the foil works. You can put it on a surfboard. You don't need the boots. You don't need a jet ski. Any soft junk wave that you normally would never want to know about is now perfect. And so think about all those places at your beach or wherever you live where you go, oh, I would never surf there. It's too mushy and junk. That's perfect for foiling. And so it has reinvigorated me to a level I don't know if I've ever been this excited about. And I'm down at the beach. It's 6:30 every morning, and if it's knee high, I can go out on my foil and have a blast. And gosh, to be where I am, and having ridden so many waves, to be this enthusiastic about something, I can't even tell you how fortunate I feel to have that stoke. You know what it does? It makes you feel young. It makes you feel young, and you've got energy, and life. Man, it's worth living, And so now I get to share that with my son. My son has gotten into foiling, and as little as a couple months ago, maybe even less, I would tell him, look, you're getting better, Austin. You're definitely getting better. You're catching up, and maybe someday you'll be as good as your dad. And I laugh because it's funny to even hear those words come out of my mouth, because he's so much better than I am now. And we're talking a couple months ago, 3 months ago, maybe at the most. And he's doing flips and this and that, and I don't even know what you call them at this point.
Once I figured out that you could do massive airs, crazy hacks off the lips, I'm like, how high, how fast, how far can you go? And landed my first little loop, just a tiny little one. Or first I landed a little air. I saw my dad do an air first, and I was like, if this old guy is doing it, I'm gonna do one 10 times as high. So figured out how to do little airs at first, and I was just messing around at the harbor one day, and I just punted a fly away and tried to spin a little bit, and actually got a lot closer than I thought I was gonna. And I was like, this is totally possible. So after that, for like 2 months straight, all I was doing was trying to spin. The sensation you get on the foil board is like nothing you can describe. You try to describe it as flying, but it's not really that, because you're on something. You try to describe it as levitating, but it's not really it's a completely unique sensation. It's like, okay, if I could describe it as one way, it'd be like standing on an airplane, because you're flying, but you're on something, and you can just control it however you want, like just to have fun, I'm so hyper. I want to get as many waves as possible and go as fast as possible. A board that lets me just do loops around the lineup in giant airs and go 100 miles an hour down the line. I mean, what surfer wouldn't like that? It's the funnest thing you can possibly do.
He literally is taking foiling to the next level. And so to be on the inside and so close to it, and help propel him and give him feedback and motivate him, it's such a joy to share that not only with friends, but with my son, boy, it brings me a lot of joy.